You know what's funny? We live in a world where being surrounded by people is seen as the ultimate goal. The crowded parties, the full contact list, the group chats that never sleep. And yet, there are people who walk away from all of it. Not because they're broken, not because they're afraid, but because they've discovered something most of us spend our entire lives running from. The truth is, some people prefer to be alone. And when you understand why, everything changes. This is the story of Daniel. Daniel was 32 when it happened, when the shift occurred, when everything he thought he knew about himself quietly unraveled over the course of a single autumn. He'd always been what you'd call normal. He had friends, not a ton, but enough. He showed up to birthday dinners, responded to texts within a reasonable time frame, attended the occasional office happy hour. He wasn't antisocial, he wasn't a hermit, he was just there, participating in life the way everyone said you were supposed to. But something had been changing, slowly. So slowly he almost didn't notice it at first. It started with a Friday night. Daniel had plans to meet his college friends at a bar downtown, the kind of place with exposed brick and overpriced cocktails with names like Smoky Reverie or The Last Word. He was getting ready, buttoning a shirt, when he felt it. This heavy, sinking feeling in his chest. Not anxiety exactly, not dread, just resistance, like his body was quietly saying, "Do we really have to do this?" He went anyway, because that's what you do, right? You honor your commitments. You show up. The bar was loud, too loud. His friends were great, laughing, telling stories, rehashing the same memories they'd been rehashing for a decade, and Daniel smiled. He laughed at the right moments. He ordered a drink he didn't really want. But the whole time, there was this strange distance, like he was watching himself participate rather than actually being there. By the time he got home that night, he felt exhausted, not physically tired, emotionally drained, like someone had been siphoning energy from him all evening, and he'd just been standing there, letting it happen. He told himself it was just a bad night. Everyone has those. But then it happened again, and again. The weekend brunch with his sister, where he spent 2 hours half listening, nodding along while secretly wishing he was back in his apartment. The dinner party at a coworker's house where he found himself standing in the kitchen, pretending to be fascinated by the appetizer spread, just to avoid another round of small talk. The group text that went on for 3 days straight about vacation plans he had no intention of joining. And here's the thing Daniel started to notice. When he was alone, he didn't feel lonely. That's what confused him the most. Loneliness was supposed to be this dark, heavy thing, this void you're supposed to fill with people and noise and connection. But when Daniel was by himself, reading in his living room, going for walks at dusk, cooking dinner in silence, he felt calm, clear, like he could finally hear himself think. One Saturday morning, he decided to test it. He cleared his entire weekend. No plans, no obligations, no apologies. He woke up late, made coffee, sat on his couch, and did absolutely nothing for 3 hours. And it felt incredible. He read half a book. He went to a museum by himself, spent 40 minutes staring at a single painting, and didn't have to explain to anyone why it moved him. He ate dinner at a quiet restaurant, alone at a corner table, and actually tasted his food for the first time in months. By Sunday night, he felt more like himself than he had in years. But then came the guilt. Because society doesn't really accept this, does it? The idea that someone might genuinely prefer solitude. There's always this assumption that something must be wrong, that you're depressed, that you're hiding, that you're too damaged to connect. People would ask him, "Are you okay?" with that concerned look. Or worse, they try to fix you. You should get out more. You should meet someone. You're isolating yourself. But Daniel wasn't isolating. He was just choosing differently. See, there's a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is empty. It aches. It's the feeling of being disconnected even when you're surrounded by people. Solitude is full. It's rich. It's the choice to be with yourself because that's where you feel most at peace. Daniel started to realize something crucial. He'd spent most of his life performing connection, showing up because that's what people expected, saying yes because saying no felt selfish, filling his calendar because an empty calendar looked like failure. But none of it was feeding him. It was draining him. And once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. He started making different choices. He stopped going to events out of obligation. He stopped apologizing for needing space. He learned to say, "I'm staying in tonight," without following it up with an excuse or justification. And you know what? Some people didn't understand. Some people drifted away. But the ones who stayed, the ones who really mattered, they got it. They didn't need him to be someone he wasn't. Daniel also started to notice the people around him who were like him. The quiet ones. The ones who didn't need to be the center of attention. The ones who found energy in stillness rather than stimulation. They'd always been there. He'd just never recognized them before because he'd been too busy trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for him.
Here's what Daniel learned. Some people are wired differently. It's not better or worse. It's just different. Extroverts recharge through connection. They thrive in crowds, in conversation, in the buzz of social energy. And that's beautiful. But introverts, true introverts, they recharge in solitude. They process the world internally. They need silence to hear themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. But our culture glorifies extroversion. The loud voices, the big personalities, the constant availability. If you're not always on, people assume you're off. If you're not surrounded by friends, you must be lonely. If you prefer your own company, you must be damaged. But Daniel wasn't damaged. He was just finally being honest. He thought about all the years he'd spent forcing himself to be more social, more outgoing, more available. All the energy he'd wasted trying to be someone he wasn't. And he realized he'd been punishing himself for something that was actually his greatest strength. Because when you're comfortable being alone, you stop needing people to complete you. You stop looking for external validation. You stop filling your life with noise just to avoid silence. You start choosing relationships that actually matter, rather than just collecting connections. Daniel's life didn't become empty when he embraced solitude. It became fuller, more intentional, more his. He started writing again, something he'd abandoned years ago because he didn't have time. He traveled alone, took trips to places he'd always wanted to see, and experienced them fully, without compromise or negotiation. He deepened the relationships that truly mattered, because he wasn't spreading himself so thin anymore. And he stopped feeling guilty about it. Because here's the truth we don't talk about enough. It's okay to prefer being alone. It's okay to find peace in solitude. It's okay to not need a full social calendar to feel fulfilled. It's okay to be selective about who you let into your space and your energy. You're not broken. You're not missing out. You're not doing life wrong. You're just doing it differently. And maybe, just maybe, you're doing it more honestly than most people ever will. The world will try to convince you that happiness is found in crowds, in constant connection, in never having an empty Saturday night. But some of the most fulfilled people you'll ever meet are the ones who learned to be at peace with themselves, the ones who don't need external noise to feel whole, the ones who discovered that solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. Daniel learned that, And his life didn't get smaller when he stopped trying to fill it with people. It got bigger, richer, more real. Because when you stop running from yourself, when you stop apologizing for who you are, when you stop performing for an audience that doesn't really matter, you finally start living. And that's something worth being alone to discover.